Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. Members, in lieu of a devotional today, will you please join me in a moment of silence? Members, the Senate has refused to concur in the House proposal of amendment on Senate Bill 45, which is an act relating to protection from nuisance suits for agricultural activities, and requested a committee of conference and appointed its members thereto. Pursuant to that action, the chair appoints the following members to serve on the part of the House: the member from Shaftesbury, Representative Durfee; the member from South Burlington, Representative Lalone; and the member from Milton, Representative Leland Morgan. Members, we have received a request to read a House concurrent resolution that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. HCR 151 is a House concurrent resolution congratulating Casella Waste Systems Incorporated on the company's 50th anniversary. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas on a chilly day in April 1975, Doug Casella took a pickup truck, which he had purchased with money from jobs he held as a teenager, and began collecting garbage from a few customers in Rutland near the Killington region. And in 1976, his younger brother, John Casella, joined the company, Casella. And whereas in 1977, Casella inaugurated Vermont's first recycling facility. And this bold decision triggered the development of a waste and resource management infrastructure throughout the northeastern states. And whereas in 1997, on an inauspicious morning immediately following a major stock market downturn, Casella launched an extremely successful public stock offering. And today, the corporation is listed on the NASDAQ exchange under the symbol CWST. And whereas since 2000, resource management and sustainability have become increasingly important corporate objectives. And whereas in 2025, Casella, now known as Casella Waste Systems Incorporated, has over 5,000 employees, maintains operations in 10 states, and serves more than 1 million customers in 46 states. And whereas Casella was a charter member of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's 2005 Climate Leaders Program, and today it includes EV collection trucks in its fleet. And whereas in partnership with the University of Vermont, Casella established the Casella Center for Circular Economy and Sustainability, an internationally recognized research program for the study of sustainable waste and materials management. And whereas Casella was delighted to be listed as one of Forbes magazine's 2025 America's Best Mid-Size Employers, the only honoree in the waste management recycling industry, and the only Vermont headquartered company so recognized. And whereas in 2020, the company established the Kenneth A. Ayer Senior CDL Training Center, named after Casella's first employee, which has trained over 300 employees as commercially licensed drivers. And whereas the Casella Foundation supervises the company's giving initiatives and annually contributes over $2 million to local communities. And the company's employees volunteer more than 14,000 hours each year towards worthy causes. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives, the General Assembly congratulates Casella Waste Systems Incorporated on the company's 50th anniversary, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Casella Waste Systems Incorporated.
Are there any announcements? Member from Castleton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We just heard the reading of the resolution honoring Casella Waste Management on the company's 50th anniversary. As I prepared these remarks, I was reminded of a quote from the famed poet Maya Angelou. Angelou famously said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." I could not think of a more fitting quote for celebrating Casella today. At the core of everything the company does is people. From the thousands that they employ to their more than 1 million customers, Casella remains as committed today as when it was founded, not just to doing well, but to doing good. While the journey began with that one pickup truck, two brothers, and their shared dream, it has grown into an extraordinary story of perseverance, grit, and success. One would be hard-pressed to find a company here in Vermont or across our nation that remains as steadfast and committed to the communities where they do business as Casella. And you don't have to take my word for it. I hear it everywhere I go. Their employees are our neighbors, our friends, and in many cases, our family. They are the familiar faces we see driving through town behind the wheel of their signature blue trucks. While we may have first noticed their logo on the blue bins in our neighborhood or on the city block on our daily commute, today we see it proudly displayed as the sponsor of a local trade show on the jersey of our Kids Little League team and across our state's university campuses. As we heard in the resolution, the accomplishments and milestones the company has achieved are numerous, but I know if you ask John or Doug what they are most proud of, without a moment's hesitation, they would say Casella's people. They continue to hire and develop exceptional talent, many of whom are Vermonters. As one of our state's largest employers, Casella serves as a vital economic engine powering many of our communities. Casella has emerged as an industry leader in sustainability, protecting our environment and our planet for generations to come. 100 years from now, the world will be saying, thank God for companies like Casella. But Madam Speaker, we don't have to wait 100 years because there are countless people who are deeply grateful for Casella today. Madam Speaker, we are honored to be joined today by Casella Waste Management's founders, Doug and John Casella. They are seated in the gallery. Please join me in welcoming them and congratulating them on 50 incredible years.
Will the guest of the member from Castleton please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Pownell.
Madam Speaker, I am very glad to have the guests of the member from Castleton with us to hear this next announcement. Seated next to me is the founder and sole graduate of the other Duke University, and is a member from Burlington who has achieved a real milestone, having established a business in 2002, having grown that catering business, nurtured it, and now having, as of, I believe, 2:37 p.m. on Wednesday, transferred it to employees to continue the good things that Sugar Snap Catering has done. I wish to congratulate the member on this impressive milestone and to thank her for being the kind of business owner that we would love to have more of in Vermont, for all they do for their families, for their communities, and for their employees.
Congratulations, member. Member from Morristown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, some 35 years ago, I was so fortunate to work at a wonderful nursing home in northern Vermont with a wonderful assistant director of nursing, a bright-eyed, young, enthusiastic, smart, hardworking person. Our careers would separate and we'd go in different directions, but I was so pleased to reunite with my good friend, Representative Mari Cordes, years later, working here. Mari has announced that she will be leaving the House, going to Nova Scotia to resume a career there, and I wanted to take this moment just to recognize her. She has contributed to Vermont richly. Her integrity, her ethics are something I know I look forward to someday when I grow up to maybe replicating. I truly honor her and respect her. And I wanted to ask through you, Madam Speaker, if the members would join me in showing our appreciation to her.
Good luck, member. We'll miss you. Don't be a stranger. Are there any further announcements, member from Castleton?
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. And I realize that it is not customary for a member to speak twice during announcements, so I appreciate this. But I would be remiss if I didn't recognize two very special constituents of mine that are joining us this morning, especially when those constituents are the two people that I am incredibly blessed to call mom and dad. There's no greater gift that parents can provide than a home filled with love, laughter, and opportunity. Growing up, my brother and I had no greater cheerleaders than our parents, no matter where in the world our adventures led us. Whether it was the coral reefs of Roatan or the concrete jungle of Manhattan. No matter how ambitious, no matter how ambitious our dreams were, I knew my parents believed in them as deeply as we did. My being in this body is as much their accomplishment as it is my own. Madam Speaker, please join me in welcoming my parents, Larry and Kim Harvey, to the People's House today. They are seated in the gallery.
Will the family of the member from Castleton please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Rutland City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to make a comment. I certainly concur with the comments that were made regarding Casellas. My husband had an insurance agency, and when they started out, they had, he insured them, they had 2 trucks. And you will never find kinder, nicer people than John and Doug Casella. They certainly give back to their community over and over again. It is somewhat amusing when you are out of state and you see a Casella truck go by. It's like, ah. Anyway, I congratulate the Casellas on their anniversary. Thank you.
Okay. Member from East Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, I move that the remarks of the member from Morristown be journalized.
The member from East Montpelier moves that the remarks of the member from Morristown be journalized. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have journalized the remarks of the member from Morristown. Are there any further announcements? Member from Derby.
Madam Speaker, I move that the member first comments from Castleton's words be journalized as to Casella.
The member from Derby moves that we journalize the remarks of the member from Castleton. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have journalized the remarks of the member from Castleton. Are there any further announcements? Member from Moortown.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. On this possibly last day of our session together, I have it on good authority that the wonderful new member from Waitsfield will be celebrating her birthday on Monday. So would you please join me in an early birthday wish for her?
Happy birthday, member. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none? Oh, member from Milton.
I have it on good authority that one of my committee members has a birthday Monday. His name is Zon. Oh, rep somebody. I don't know how the rules here.
Happy birthday, member. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, I have an update for you on the order of bills we will be taking up for this morning's session. They are House Bill 484, House Bill 321, Senate Bill 23, House Bill 266, and Senate Bill 123. I'll go through that again. We have 5 bills to take up this morning. House Bill 484, House Bill 321, Senate Bill 23, House Bill 266, and Senate Bill 123. So with that, House Bill 484 is an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar, and the member from Derby, Representative Nelson, and others will offer a further amendment thereto, which is also in today's calendar, to report the Senate proposal of amendment and offer that further proposal of amendment. Member from Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 484 was passed out of this chamber, and it was largely a bill to create a fee structure for beneficial substances in agriculture. And it was language worked across all 50 states from the Association of American Plant Food Control Officials, which to here on forward will be known as APCO. But in spirit of moving things along, I am not going to go through 484 as we've done that once already. And I'd like to move right along to the rest of the show. And we will be sharing this bill because it's many components. There's 17 sections. And we'll be bouncing around the chamber for your entertainment purposes. So, Section 1, there's no changes. I will now yield to the member from Randolph.
The member from Derby yields to the member from Randolph.
Madam Speaker, I'll be reporting on Sections 2, 3, and 4 of the bill. Currently, companies that sell pesticide products in the state pay an annual fee of $200 per product to help pay for the disposal of obsolete and unwanted pesticides. Section 2 increases this fee by $50 in response to rising costs incurred by solid waste management entities. Section 3 requires the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, in consultation with the Department of Environmental Conservation, to study options for funding the reimbursement to solid waste management entities for all costs associated with the collection and disposal of unwanted or obsolete pesticides. The study would also consider the viability of having an extended producer responsibility organization manage the collection of these materials. AAFM would issue a report to the legislature by December 15th, 2025. If no EPR is created, the fee increases in Section 2 would remain in place. And then Section 4 concerns stormwater permitting for the Rutland County Fair. The fair is struggling to affordably meet the requirements for a 3-acre permit. Under this section, it would still need to obtain a 3-acre permit, but it would not be required to pay a stormwater impact fee or complete an offset for the phosphorus reductions it cannot complete because of physical constraints on the site. The other fairs affected by 3-acre permitting are already working towards compliance. Your Committee on Environment approved these amendments on a straw poll vote of 11-0-0, and I will now yield back to the member from Derby.
The member from Randolph yields to the member from Derby.
All right. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, member from Randolph. Section 5 amends the definition of agricultural land under the current use to provide that land donating farm crops of $2,000 in 1 of 2 or 3 of 5 calendar years qualifies as eligible for agricultural lands. That can be found on page 4251 in today's journal. We will be offering an amendment on that. Section 6, the heavy cut rule, is on page 4252, provides the repeal of the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation rules on the intent to cut notification emergency rules, standards, and procedures shall be deemed not to have repealed, and the provision of the rule shall be deemed to have continued in full force and effect and remain valid on and after July 5th, 2018. And this is in 2018, all rules had to be set, and this rule was made in 2018 on July 1st. So it kind of got caught in a fold. And it's a rule, so if there's a reason for a heavy cut, Department of Forest Parks and Recreation will go and check the site and make sure all AMPs are followed and whatnot, and take care of business. That's found on page 4252. I'll now yield back to the member from Randolph.
The member from Derby yields to the member from Randolph.
I will now report on sections 7 through 15. Sections 7 through 13 have been previously passed by this body when we approved H319 earlier this session. Have come back to us with the following changes. In section 7, the term architectural paint is being replaced by the term paint products. And sections 8 through 13 make conforming changes to that change in term. And this is because in sections 14 and 15, the bill amends the existing extended producer responsibility program for architectural paint to expand its scope to all paint products, including aerosol coating products such as spray paint, coating-related products such as paint removers, and non-industrial coatings such as furniture oil. This change is in response to a request from industry to include the products and includes compensation to the solid waste management entities for the costs of paint collections. And your Committee on Environment approved these amendments on a straw poll vote of 11-0-0, and I will now yield to the member from Manchester.
Member, did you yield back? I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
I'm sorry, I'm yielding to the member from Manchester for the following section.
Thank you. The member from Derby yields to the member from Manchester.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So be talking about section 16, and you can actually find this language on page 4129 of yesterday's calendar. And I'm gonna take just a few minutes here because this topic actually is new to our body. It's not one that we've discussed this year. And so my committee, Energy and Digital Infrastructure, took a fair amount of testimony on this language when it came over and as it came over from the Senate. So just to give folks a little bit of background, Rygate is a wood-burning biomass power plant that's located up in Caledonia County. And by burning low-grade wood products all around the clock, every day of the year, so 24/7, 365 for the most part, Rygate contributes baseload power to our grid, totaling about 3% of our state's total electricity consumption. In addition to feeding the power grid, Rygate also supports loggers and our forest economy, providing good jobs and a market for these low-grade whole tree wood chips that are otherwise difficult to sell. So Rygate has a power purchasing agreement, basically a contract with Vermont's utilities, and they're each required to buy their pro rata share of Rygate's baseload power at a fixed rate. In 2022, the legislature extended this contract for 10 years to 2032. However, the new contract was contingent on Rygate meeting certain milestones to make the plant more efficient. So biomass electricity is not always very efficient. A lot of heat and energy is generated when you burn the chips, and a lot of this energy escapes the plant. So when the legislature extended the contract in 2022, we asked Rygate to increase its efficiency by 50% and to find a way to put that escaping energy to better use. We also required that Rygate demonstrate sound business practices, including paying its loggers in full and on time. So here's where the story gets interesting. As of a few weeks ago, Rygate is under new ownership, a lending company that provides patient capital to small businesses. And they have now come to the legislature asking for a one-year extension of these milestones. Why? Because the first plan to increase Rygate's efficiency is off the table. Cutting-edge equipment that was to be shipped over from Spain is now prohibitively expensive due to tariffs. And an LOI to sell dried wood chips to a Canadian particle board company has been canceled. So the new owners have worked very hard in a short period of time to get a new plan in place using American-made equipment, but the new owner needs a little bit more time to get it done. The new plan essentially is to capture more of that escaping heat to dry wood chips, which Rygate will then burn. So we're creating kind of a beneficial loop. And in the language of this bill, basically, all you're going to see is a series of proposed new deadlines 1 year out to give the new owners a little bit more time to get it done. So if you want to look at the House calendar, you can see the section of Vermont law that pertains specifically to Rygate. That's what we're amending. You can see the first section saying that the Public Utility Commission will reconsider Rygate's rates in 2028 if all of the milestones have been met. In subsection K, you can see the requirement that Rygate increase its efficiency by 50%. And then you can see moving down all the milestones simply kicked out a year that we've asked Rygate to adhere to. So submitting a signed contract with a supplier and a contractor, submitting a certification from an engineer, submitting construction plans, and then on-site verification from the PUC that everything is looking on track. So our committee was very interested in this subject. We took quite a lot of testimony. We heard from Legislative Counsel. We heard from the new owner of the Rygate Power Plant. We heard from the Department of Public Service, the Public Utility Commission, the Director of the Division of Forests in the Department of Forest Parks and Rec, a lobbyist for Rygate, a lobbyist for the Vermont Forest Products Association, the Executive Director of the Professional Logging Contractors of the Northeast, the wood buyer for Rygate, who's also a logging operator, the owner of a different Caledonia County logging company, and the interim commissioner of the Department of Economic Development. On a straw poll vote, our committee approved this requested Rygate extension 9-0, and having been now thoroughly informed about Rygate, we ask for your support.
So the question is, member from Derby.
Oh, sorry, I was supposed to yield. And I now yield to the member from Derby.
The member from Manchester yields to the member from Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you to the member from Westminster.
Manchester.
All right, the effective dates, section 7 to 13 will take effect on July 1st, 2025. And section 5, which shall take effect January 1st, 2026. And this passed out of House Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry Committee on a straw poll vote of 6-02, and we ask for your support.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On H484, the House Agricultural, Food Resiliency, and Forestry Committee offers an amendment The first by striking out section 5:2032 VSA 3752 and strike it out as follows, deleted. Second, in section 17, effective dates by striking out subsection B in its entirety and inserting in lieu thereof a new subsection B to read, the remainder of this act shall take effect on July 1st, 2025. And this was done with a straw poll of 602, and we urge your support on the amendment. Thank you.
And now the question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to suspend our rules to message our action on House Bill 484 to the Senate forthwith?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to message our actions on H484 to the Senate forthwith.
The member from Poultney moves that we suspend rules to message our action on House Bill 484 to the Senate forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended rules to message our action on House Bill 484 to the Senate forthwith. Members, next is House Bill 321, which is an act relating to miscellaneous cannabis amendments. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar, and there is a further amendment to consider. We first turn to the member from Vergennes to report the Senate proposal of amendment. Member from Vergennes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be presenting H321, amendments to miscellaneous cannabis, proposal of amendment as passed by the Senate. And as you mentioned, I will be offering further amendment to address sections that I will cite as I give this floor report. So H321 is passed by the House, was largely a good housekeeping bill that attempted to address issues that have arisen in the past year identified by the CCB, which is the Cannabis Control Board, how retail establishments are cited, how to wind down a cannabis business in the event of a sudden incapacity or death of an owner, ensuring cannabis excise tax payments are reported appropriately in the event of a business transfer. There was very little in the way of new policy or market expansion. As a result, the bill received unanimous support from 3 committees. It touched on in the House as well as on the floor, and I believe that was a first for a cannabis bill. The Senate has made some changes, which I will review. You can follow along with those on page 4221 of today's calendar. And as a result of those changes, as mentioned, I will offer further amendment once this is concluded. Section 1, this amendment clarifies that law enforcement may seize cannabis that is illegal pursuant to administrative rule duty adopted by the CCB as products containing synthetic cannabinoids delta-8 THC. Section 2 permits the Cannabis Control Board to receive 50 state fingerprint support criminal history background checks from the FBI for persons seeking a cannabis license. Section 2A is a Senate proposal of amendment. This was an amendment regarding the funding formula for the CCB that was added by Senate Economic Development. This was ultimately removed by Senate Appropriations. Section 2B. This section adds 1 new member appointed by Migrant Justice to the Land Access Opportunity Board. This is not directly related to cannabis, but was a request by the LAOB and needed a home, so we have it in here. Section 3, this amendment clarifies that hemp products deemed intoxicating by administrative rule are legally cannabis, not hemp, and must comply with all laws and rules regulating cannabis. This is testing, packaging, potency limits, labeling, advertising, etc. Section 4, this section is one of the sections that will be proposed to be removed in further amendment. This section amends the rulemaking authority of the CCB in 3 instances. The first establishes licensing criteria for changes in ownership control or location of a cannabis establishment. Second, directs the CCB to consider regional population and local input when issuing retail licenses. Third, establishes rulemaking authority over a new license type. These are trim and harvest licenses. And lastly, it also related to like different license type to wherein. Again, this would be a suggested proposal to be removed. Section 5, this amendment allows CCB to use a third-party background check company to satisfy background check requirements if the FBI denies their application for criminal history records. Section 6, this amendment removes the statutory requirement that the CCB issue a temporary employee card while it processes an employee ID application. 7, section allows CCB to issue a temporary permit to operate a cannabis establishment in the event that the owner of a license are unable to continue an operation due to incapacity, insolvency, dysfunction, or abrupt closure. Section 8, this is one of the instances that we'll propose to remove. With further amendment, this section, in conjunction with sections 4, 11, and 12, creates a trim and harvest service license type and authorizes this license type to operate multiple locations. Section 9, this requires cannabis packaging to include harvested on dates as well as packed on dates. Section 10, this allows propagation cultivators, sort of a cannabis nursery license, to sell their seedlings to retailers who can register and sell them to home growers. Section 11, this is one of the sections that we propose to be removed, along with 4, 8, and 12. This is all trim licensure harvest license language. Again, 12, just cited that. This section will be proposed to remove. This is the fee for the harvested licenses, created a 2-year option for employee ID cards, creates a 2-year option for product registration, and eliminated an intent to apply fee. Moving on, section 12A, this is a Senate proposal of amendment. This section asks the CCB to evaluate their current fee schedule and make recommendations whether they should be adjusted for fiscal year 27. As a part of this report, the CCB will also evaluate whether a portion of the cannabis excise tax revenue should be dedicated to the Cannabis Business Development Fund and the Land Access Opportunity Board. Section 13, the section adds cannabis excise tax compliance information to bulk sale process that is created to help streamline. Section 13A, this section ensures synthetic nicotine products are taxed in the same manner as other tobacco products. Section 14, this section deletes a report that was a requirement of the auditor's office. Let's see, section 15, it was struck by the Senate. This section creates a full-time attorney position at the CCP that would be dedicated to managing the agency's increased enforcement caseload. So the rationale behind this was the new attorney position would be responsible for vertical management of the agency's enforcement caseload, drafting letters of warning, violation notices, and corrective action plans. Predictably, the CCB's enforcement caseloads are increasing as the market grows. if the CCB is unable to investigate complaints, enforcement law compliance effectively, they're expecting long delays in caseloads, things of that nature. Additionally, the CCB having a single attorney creates a perception of conflict within the department because one would be responsible for help guiding compliance while at the same time being in the position where they have to enforce compliance. So that's a difficult situation for a single attorney to be in this market. Again, that position was removed by the Senate. Section 15A, this amendment would allow a retailer in good standing and in partnership with a minimum of 3 small cultivators and manufacturers to seek a permit, first from the town, second from the CCB, to hold an adults-only cannabis farmers market. This is a pilot program that would prop up the first sort of public event for the cannabis industry. These events would be limited to a maximum of 5. This is an up to 5, not a requirement of 5. Geography and disbursement around the state will be considered. The rationale behind this is we've heard consistently from small cultivators that their business model is not economically sustainable unless they have an opportunity to bypass some intermediary businesses in the supply chain. Of course, all of the cannabis laws, regulations, and workflows at the CCB and tax department center around licensed retailers being the exclusive conduit for the legal sales to the public. This proposal attempts to meet the cultivators halfway by allowing direct sales to customers by requiring sales be processed and overseen by the retailer on site. The amendment includes safety regulations designed to mitigate risk and to promote the small cultivators themselves. The events can only take place in a town that is opted in. Before applying for the permit with the CCB, the retailer must receive approval from the municipal government, who may condition the issuance of the permit on any public safety protocols they deem appropriate. The retailer seeking the permit from the CCB must be in good standing, meaning it will only approve retailers who have demonstrated the ability to comply with tax collection and other guiding, advertising, ID checking, security, inventory tracking, etc. regulations. The events must be properly insured, which may entail additional security and cash product management requirements by underwriters through the insurance industry. Events may occur outside under this proposal, but they must be in a secure, access controlled, defined area and screened from view of the general public. Retailers must partner with a minimum of 3 small cultivators or product manufacturers. They must submit to the CCB a profit-sharing agreement that is fair to their partner cultivators and manufacturers, and they may not sell their own products if they happen to own a cultivation or manufacturing license. And lastly on this, the CCB has full discretion to add additional restrictions as needed and shut down the pilot program entirely if they are not going well. Section 15B asks the CCB to issue a report to the House and Senate committees of jurisdiction on how these events went, sort of a postmortem, so we can take a look once they're executed and dial them in. Should we choose to continue with these sort of events after the pilot program? And lastly, Section 16, effective date, July 1, 2025. House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs voted favorably on a straw poll of 8-1.
And now the member from Vergennes, Representative Byrong, offers a further proposal of amendment thereto that is printed in the calendar. Member from Vergennes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I referenced most of the sections that we were going to address in this. So the amendment that I'm offering to the Senate proposal of amendment has 4 instances of amendment. And most of these proposals to remove these language this language and provisions is just due to the lack of that attorney position, creating more workload on more initiatives without the appropriate legal support was deemed unwise. So the first instance would strike out Section 47 VSA 881 in its entirety. Second, Section 8, 7 VSA 901 in its entirety. Third, striking out Section 11, 7 VSA 904C. And that would be in lieu of Section 11 being deleted. And then fourth, strike out 12, 7 VSA 910 in its entirety in lieu of the following, Section 12. Your Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs voted 10-0-1 on straw poll to support this amendment, and we ask for the body's support.
And now for the Committee on Appropriations, member from Bennington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment to H 321 adds one position to the Land Access and Opportunity Board, which would add a nominal per diem cost. While this bill has no significant impacts on the appropriations of the state, the report section of the bill will provide recommendations regarding the allocation of the cannabis excise tax. And of course, changes to that allocation would affect the revenue available to the general fund from that tax. House Appropriations found this favorable in a straw poll vote by 6-5-0.
And for the Committee on Ways and Means, member from Fairhaven.
Madam Speaker, the Ways and Means Committee reviewed H123. We heard from Legislative Counsel from the Office of Ledge Counsel, the Fiscal Analyst from the Joint Fiscal Office. On a favorable straw poll of 7-0-4, we recommend this bill ought to pass.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto? Member from Chittenden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I inquire of the reporter of the amendment, I guess?
The member from Vergennes is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, as I look at the amendment that came over from the Senate, it doesn't look like the committee amendments strike Section 15A. So I have some questions on Section 15A, which is found on page 4234 of today's calendar, referred to as a cannabis showcase event, or I believe, as was referred to earlier, as a new farmers market concept. Madam Speaker, how many licensed cannabis retailers are there in Vermont today?
Exact number escapes me, but it's plus minus 100, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so Madam Speaker, as I look at this new provision, these new events could be multiple retailers. But I don't see a limit on the number of retailers that could participate in an event. So, Madam Speaker, is it fair to assume if there are 100 cannabis retailers that we could have an event at, say, a fairgrounds with up to 100 participating retailers? Is that correct?
It is correct to assume that, but it would also need to be vetted locally and through the CCB. So relying on their judgment to gauge what is appropriate to a site seemed logical.
I understand, but we have some big fairgrounds throughout the state. So the other part of this amendment suggests that these special events could be held over a 24-hour period. So I could read that, Madam Speaker, as we could have a 2-day event, 4 p.m. one day to 4 p.m. the next day. Is that fair to read that into the provisions here, Madam Speaker?
You're saying so from 4 p.m., say on May 30th to 4 p.m. on May 31st? As 24 hours? Yes, I guess that would be 2 days, but it would still be 24-hour block.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but it would be, I would think, billed as a 2-day event. Thank you, member. Madam Speaker, I think this is this provision is something obviously that's new to the House because it came over from the Senate in this amendment late in the session. I do not support this provision. I think it needs more time, more discussion, and I am not in favor of the bill with this provision in it. I think this could be huge if it was an event with 20 retailers and an untold number of growers participating, and I'm just not sure. This is promoting cannabis, in my view, not controlling it. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto. Next is Senate Bill 23, which is an act relating to the use of synthetic media in elections. The bill was referred to the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs, which recommends that the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as printed in today's calendar. The member from Charlotte will report for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S23, an act relating to the use of synthetic media in elections.
Member from Charlotte.
Madam Speaker, S23 is an act relating to the use of synthetic media in elections. Your House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs recommends that it be passed. We voted on a vote of 6-4-1 that it be approved. This bill requires anyone who knowingly, within 90 days of an election, prior to an election, publishes, communicates, or distributes fraudulent or deceptive synthetic media to include a disclosure statement acknowledging that the content was created or manipulated by artificial intelligence. So last fall, in a neighboring state, a voice recording went out via robocall to voters right before the presidential election, and the voice on the line sounded exactly like a presidential candidate, and that voice urged voters not to go to the polls and vote. The recording was created using artificial intelligence and sounded so real that many people believed that it was the actual candidate. So whomever created this call is attempting to influence the outcome of the election. As these types of technology rapidly become more sophisticated, it's becoming increasingly more difficult to distinguish reality from fiction, and this is really alarming. So it's important for voters to understand what's real and what isn't. It's important that we protect the integrity of our elections and do whatever we can to keep them from being influenced by people who are willing to lie and deceive to alter the course of these elections. This bill makes sure that if people are being given false information, it's very, very clear that that is what is happening. What this bill doesn't do is unconstitutionally limit free speech. We should and do and want to protect political speech, parody, satire, and other forms of media where people share their political views in a lot of different ways. There are more than 20 other states that have laws regulating AI in elections, and 6 that have laws that are very similar to this one. They have a disclosure period within a time frame before an election. This bill doesn't ban anything at all, nor does it prevent people from creating this kind of content. One concern that people have is, will my elderly mother get arrested for sharing a video on Facebook or a social media site? And this bill specifies that the person has to know that that content is fraudulent or that it was created deceptively. And so The word knows is very key here. So if your elderly parent shares a video on their social media of a political candidate, maybe throwing kittens in a garbage can, don't worry, they will be fine. That is important. So many of these laws are new and evolving, and as technology and the way it's used changes, it's likely that we're going to be working on and amending these laws and updating them in the coming years. It's really important. So starting with Section 1 of the bill, it defines the terms that we're using. I actually have an amendment that we're going to discuss shortly that will further clarify these definitions, but it doesn't substantially change them in a way that's going to affect what we're talking about now. Throughout the bill, two terms are used: synthetic media and deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media. So synthetic media is an image, like an audio or video recording, or any content that's been created or manipulated on purpose using digital technology without the consent of the candidate. Deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media is when that media created portrays a political candidate saying or doing something that would sully or injure that candidate's reputation, or that attempts to unduly influence the outcome of the election. That's the important part, is that they are trying to use this content to create a situation where they're trying to influence how people vote, and with dishonesty. So the disclosure quote that's required is really specific. It would be, "This media has been created or intentionally manipulated by digital technology or artificial intelligence." And that is required to be part of any kind of content that's created using AI, is intended to influence the outcome of an election, and is shared within 90 days before an election, just to be clear about that. The rest of the time, people can go for it. So Section 2 is the penalties and enforcement section. The Attorney General or a state's attorney can institute the action for the violations. They also have the authority to conduct civil investigations regarding potential violations of the Act. There are some exceptions to people or organizations that are that can use this kind of media. And those exceptions are news outlets, if they're creating a broadcast or some kind of print or broadcast media that is sharing that AI generated content as part of the newscast or a news report. If an organization is required to broadcast ad for candidates, there are laws about equal disclosure or equal time for political candidates, or if they are specifically paid to distribute this kind of media. Telecommunication companies, people who create this kind of media as satire or parody, and internet computer service providers are also exempt from this. The penalties start at no more than $1,000 for a violation of this, unless the media is meant to incite physical violence or harm, in which case the fine isn't more than $5,000. And then if the person commits the same offense again within a 5-year period, then the fines increase as time goes on. And the Attorney General's Office or State's Attorney can enforce this. So your House Government Operations and Military Affairs Committee heard testimony from the organizing manager, the democracy team, a public citizen, the reporter from the Senate Committee on Government Operations, the Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs from the Attorney General's Office, Legislative Counsel, the Deputy Secretary of State, a democracy associate from VPIRG, the Director of Information Operations Research from Norwich University Applied Research Institutes, a policy associate on elections and redistricting from the National Conference of State Legislatures, the Executive Director of the Vermont Association of Broadcasters, the Vice President of Strategy from Norwich University, an Advocacy Director from the ACLU, the Director of Elections and Campaign Finance from the Secretary of State's Office, the President of Norwich University Applied Research Institutes, the Director of Elections and Redistricting from the National Conference of State Legislatures, the Assistant Attorney General, Chief of the General Counsel and Administrative Law Division from the Attorney General's Office, and a partner with Leonine Public Affairs, New England Connectivity and Telecommunications Association. We ask for your support with a vote of 6-4-1.
And now the member from Charlotte offers an amendment to the report of the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Charlotte.
So the amendment is a very quick one. It's in section 1 with the definition of the deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media. It was unclear in the bill itself whether or not images were included in that. So it just changes the language a little bit to make sure that it clearly includes images like pictures that are created using AI. And making sure that it's not just recordings. And that was that. And we approved it with a straw poll of 803 and asked for your support.
The first question is, shall the report of the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs be amended as offered by the member from Charlotte? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the report of the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. Now the question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Are you ready for that question? Member from Manchester.
Madam Speaker, as my colleague from GovOps already mentioned, during the 2024 election, thousands of New Hampshire voters received a phone call from a presidential candidate telling them that they didn't need to vote in the upcoming party primary. Here's the problem, and it should be terrifying to all of us. It wasn't him. It was a deep fake audio recording created by artificial intelligence. In recent months, I've seen several images on social media shared by Vermonters, aimed at Vermonters, and published in a political context in order to influence political opinion that were similarly created by AI. And I'd like to emphasize the word artificial. These images looked real, but they were fiction. Members, democracy is not a given. Democracy can be lost. It can be squandered, it can be corrupted, it can be shattered blow by blow until it is gone. And one of the most powerful tools of any healthy democracy is information. Voters deserve to make decisions, to form opinions, and to choose their elected leaders based on information that is accurate, that is reliable, and that is true. When our public forums are filled with fiction, voters are not only being tricked and misled, they're being profoundly harmed. S23 is, quite frankly, a light touch. It simply requires that within 90 days of any election, any synthetic media, whether it's a picture, a video, an audio recording, be clearly labeled as generated by AI if a person knows or should have known that it is deceptive and fraudulent. And I want to repeat those words. Knows. Should have known. Deceptive. Fraudulent. Madam Speaker, there are a lot of ways in which democracy can be and is being undermined today. And there are a lot of ways in which we can stand up to protect it. I urge my colleagues to vote yes for S23.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from St. Albans Town.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm curious on page 4218 under B1B, why an exemption is created for these various entities of broadcasting, cable, et cetera. Why is it exempted if it's paid to broadcast deceptive and fraudulent synthetic media? My concern, I mean, this is an issue I think that could affect all of us, and I think that I am in agreement with a lot of the things that we're trying to accomplish here, but we also have outside groups, activist groups who could actually buy airtime to air deceptive things. And I'm just curious as why that was included as an exemption.
Would you like to interrogate the
I would
member?
like to interrogate, I'm sorry, I would like to interrogate the.
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, there are people, companies that exist to create this content for people. They are not responsible if they are paid to do so. To create the disclosure, the person who hired them would be responsible for that disclosure if they were to share it.
So you're talking about the vendor is hired, Madam Speaker, and then they would not carry any responsibility if they pay to do this on behalf of someone?
Yes.
And again, my question is, why not?
Madam Speaker, if it's a company or a person whose business it is to create this content and they are being paid to do so because they have the expertise to do that, they are not responsible for how that content is used afterward or creating the disclosure. It's just, I would say it could be similar to maybe a baker making a cake and they are not responsible what the person who purchases the cake does with the cake after the fact.
I'm not sure. Well, Madam Speaker, I really appreciate that. Thank you. But I really think that I can't understand why that would not be considered something that should be investigated and carry some liability. But thank you.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from Georgia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I interrogate the presenter of the bill?
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, my understanding, there's always a lot of talk in the halls, cafeteria, et cetera. I have heard there was a question regarding this bill because testimony at some point was stopped while there were still presenters wishing to present before the committee. Did that happen? And do you feel, Madam Speaker, there should have been more information presented to the committee or not? What happened there?
Madam Speaker, are you wondering what my personal feelings are about how many witnesses we had?
I'm wondering if there were more people who had spoken with the committee clerk or however you do it in your committee, hoping to present to the committee who were not able.
Madam Speaker, we heard from, I believe, 17 witnesses, and every witness who was invited and agreed to testify did testify.
Then there was no one left out there who did not have an opportunity to present to the committee. I just want to make sure that didn't happen.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure there are many, many people who could testify on this matter, but unfortunately, we do not have all the time in the world to hear testimony. I believe the committee deemed it appropriate to hear from those 17 people. Nobody, I don't believe anyone was denied the opportunity to testify.
Thank you.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Are you ready for the question? Member from Waitsfield.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the previous member's question regarding an agency or a creative company. I guess, could I interrogate the presenter, please?
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
So thank you. So I just wanted to follow up on the previous member's question regarding a creative agency that is creating, for example, a video using artificial intelligence, and that the creative agency themselves are not responsible for putting this notice on their creative work because this is how they're making their money. I understand that. So, but is the assumption the onus is then on the organization or the candidate who has hired that creative agency to then take that creative and make sure that notice about the fact that it has used artificial intelligence is the onus on the candidate or the organization paying for that media that will then be shared publicly?
Yes.
Thank you.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from Newport City.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I'd like to interrogate the presenter of the bill.
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, I'm a bit curious. The bill isn't, it seems as though this bill prevents, goes against our First Amendment rights of free speech. Can you explain why this bill does not do that? And under the First Amendment, wouldn't you say that the right to produce such a synthetic media, wouldn't this fall under the First Amendment protection?
Madam Speaker, nothing is being banned with this bill. No one's ability to create any of this content is being stifled. They can make all the content they want. All it's requiring is that there is a disclosure within 90 days of an election, letting consumers know that this was created using artificial intelligence. But there's nothing that is preventing anyone from creating this content or sharing it. It was really important, and we heard testimony about where that line is between satire, free speech, parody, political speech, all of which it's really important that those things are protected. And it was really important to the committee and to the witnesses that we really maintain, that we stood on that line between making sure that elections aren't tampered with and that voters aren't disenfranchised, and that people have the ability to use their voice and their words and their technology to create these kinds of videos. I believe that the other 6 states where this very similar law has been enacted, also we modeled some of the language on those states. I believe that this was a good compromise. That's why we landed on the disclosure rather than banning it. Banning it would be unconstitutional, but asking for the disclosure is not. I would say also there are sometimes disclosures required for, like, let's say a person is creating materials for a political campaign and they're required to disclose who paid for it. It's along those lines.
Madam Speaker, who decides what is satire or parody? Who makes that decision?
Madam Speaker, I believe that is something that has been in the courts for many years. I believe it is, when we discussed this in committee, that it was kind of a decision or I guess the deciding line is people know it when it is in front of them, whether or not it's satire or parody. I believe that in this case, these videos that are not satirical are really created in a way that looks, feels, just in any way a regular person who's consuming that media would not know and would have no idea that it was false or that it was created by artificial intelligence. I guess the difference would be that it is intended to deceive and not intended to create a political point.
Madam Speaker, I would simply say, you know, with our First Amendment, there's a wide range of expressions that can be hurtful and mean, but fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, some of those comments, those statements, are covered, are protected under our First Amendment rights. And I'm not sure that I can support this bill. And I thank the member for her comments.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, technology is advancing at a rapid speed. We heard from one expert. In just 3 to 5 years, we may no longer be able to tell what's real and what's artificially generated. That's not science fiction. That's our near future. You may ask, why would adversaries use this technology to influence elections and undermine our democracy? The answer is really simple. It's because we let them. We enable them to do so. Right now, the tools that allow foreign and domestic bad actors to spread misinformation, impersonate trusted voices, and sow chaos are readily available. And Vermonters are left exposed. This bill is not about stifling free speech. It's about drawing a clear line between expression and exploitation. It's about ensuring transparency and accountability in a rapidly changing digital landscape. Guess what? We are already behind. Every day we delay action, I would say every minute we delay action, we risk falling further into a future where truth becomes indistinguishable from deception. But we have a choice to be reactive or to be responsible. Vermont has always led with integrity and courage, so let's do it again. Let's act decisively to protect our elections, our communities, and our democracy. I am voting yes, because the stakes are too high to do anything else.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from Franklin.
Madam Speaker, pretty good jobs can be done with sound editing equipment, with video editing equipment, with photo editing equipment right now, and have been for some years in order to do these kind of fraudulent things. I'm totally in support of protection, our election protections. The question is this the right way to do it, or has enough thought gone into it? So may I interrogate the presenter of the bill?
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
Madam Speaker, could you tell me how this bill provides more protections than what exists in election law today, dealing with fraudulent or things of this sort?
Madam Speaker, I can't quite hear you. Could you speak a little louder?
I said, Madam Speaker, can you tell me how this bill provides more protections than what already exists in law protecting elections today? Are there more penalties? What's different here?
Madam Speaker, what's different here is the addition of the disclosure to that media that lets whoever's seeing it, reading it, hearing it know that it was created using artificial intelligence. It's that disclosure statement, which is the key part of it, which is new.
Madam Speaker, so if I made the same image using Photoshop or some other image software, then I wouldn't have to put a disclosure on that?
Madam Speaker, if it was within 90 days of an election, yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, member. I'm just concerned, Madam Speaker, that we may or may not have gotten enough discussion or enough people involved in this so that we know we're coming up with a product that really does what we want it to do. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Member from Stowe.
Madam Speaker, I've not prepared comments, but I've been riveted by this discussion and this issue. Everyone in this body took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Vermont. And I want to go back to the comments of a member from Manchester. We've all watched the vulnerabilities of democracy and free and fair elections all over the world, and definitely within our United States. And I want to point out, this is not a partisan bill. When it comes to Constitution, I stand with the member from Newport, how critical the First Amendment is in any functioning democracy, and their risks. And the risks today that we, both as a state and a nation and a world, are under because of something I know less about than maybe anyone in this building, and that's AI and all this new technology stuff. But I'm going to use my gut and my common sense that there is value in this step forward, and I am going to support this bill as presented. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from Newberry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I interrogate the presenter, please?
The member from Charlotte is interrogated.
Thank you. I just want to go back to this point that's been brought up before on page 2418 of today's calendar. The exception for is paid to broadcast deceptive or fraudulent synthetic media. From your description, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded as though if I, as a candidate, hired a company to create a deceptive piece of media for me, they return that to me, the owner, it's on me to put that information out and put that disclosure on there, not them. Is that what you're saying?
Madam Speaker, I might have misspoken then. It is on the person who created it could be liable, but as the person who is sharing it, you are also responsible for creating that disclosure.
So is the difference whether you're paid to broadcast it or if you're not paid?
No, Madam Speaker, if it's part of the course of a regular newscast, or if it is part of, published, let's say online or something, as part of a newscast that is articulating the fact that it is created by artificial intelligence, then that would be an exemption.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it sounds like if I have a streaming platform and somebody pays me to create this fraudulent and deceptive media, then I'm exempt.
No, Madam Speaker. The creator would not be exempt. They could potentially be liable, civilly liable.
So where am I getting that wrong, where it says exemptions is paid to broadcast deceptive? That sounds like an exemption to someone who's paid to broadcast deceptive and fraudulent media.
Right. So the exemption is for a television and radio station, or like a broadcast that is paid to broadcast that content. That's what the exemption is for. So if a political candidate paid them to broadcast something as like an advertisement as opposed to a news story.
Okay, maybe I'm not getting it. I don't know. It just sounds to me as if I pay somebody to broadcast it, I'm fine. But if I pay them to create it and then I broadcast it, now I have to put that disclosure on there.
Well, Madam Speaker, the paying them would be if it were part of, if you were purchasing ad time or paying them as part of an advertisement for a political campaign, let's say, or if you were purchasing that time for the content, in order, as part of a campaign. Maybe I'm not making sense, but it's the exemption. There's no exemption for whoever created it. It's just for if someone's being paid, it's because they are obligated a lot of times to give, to accept those ads and to give equal time to candidates with their ads.
Okay, well, it's just, I guess, not clear to me. Thank you.
The question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs as amended? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have proposed to the Senate to amend the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, next. Nope, member from Poultney. Can you please offer us a motion to suspend our rules to take up off the notice calendar for immediate consideration House Bill 266, which is an act relating to the 340B prescription drug pricing program?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to take up off the notice calendar for immediate consideration H266.
The member from Poultney moves that we suspend rules to take up from the notice calendar for immediate consideration House Bill 266. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended rules to take up House Bill 266 for immediate consideration. House Bill 266 is an act relating to the 340B prescription drug pricing program. The Senate concurred in the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment with a further amendment thereto that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Winooski.
Madam Speaker, this amendment is very simple. It just changes the effective date of Section 5 of the bill from July 1 to January 1, 2026. The Committee on House Health Care found it favorable on a straw poll vote of 10-0-1.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment to the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment to the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to deliver House Bill 266 to the governor forthwith?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to deliver the H266 to the governor forthwith.
Okay. We don't need a rule suspension for it. So the motion is to just deliver House Bill 266 to the governor forthwith.
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to deliver H266 to the governor forthwith.
Thank you. The member from Poultney moves that we deliver House Bill 266 to the governor forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have ordered House Bill 266 to be delivered to the governor forthwith. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to suspend our rules to take up from the notice calendar for immediate consideration the Committee of Conference report on Senate Bill 123, which is an act relating to miscellaneous changes to laws related to motor vehicles?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules to take up off the notice calendar for immediate consideration S123.
The member from Poultney moves that we suspend our rules to take up from the notice calendar for immediate consideration Senate Bill 123. Are you ready for the question? If so, All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended rules to take up Senate Bill 123 for immediate consideration. Senate Bill 123 is an act relating to miscellaneous changes to laws related to motor vehicles. The bill was referred to a committee of conference on the disagreeing votes of the two chambers. The committee of conference has met and considered the same and recommends that the House adopt its report, which is printed in today's calendar. Member from Swanton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. S-123, an act relating to miscellaneous changes to laws related to motor vehicles. Committee of Conference report starts on page 4276 of today's House calendar if you want to follow along. We finished yesterday afternoon, late in the afternoon, and so when I came back into the building this morning, I went through the Senate, and they felt like they had won the conference and got what they wanted, and went up to the committee room and talked to all of our committee members and reviewed where we were at, and the House members felt that we had actually won all of what we had wanted. So I guess you got the win-win that you need and that you're looking to go forward. About a half a dozen areas of contention, 2 or 3 of them really policy issues, and the rest came down to timing issues. So in a kind of a rare scenario, the section 46 for effective dates is rather important to most of what we decided in conference, and we'll get to that as we go. The biggest policy and really substantially the only major money issue was in section 9 related to Vermonters that are eligible for SSI and SSDI. The Senate had proposed a reduced fee for those Vermonters eligible, and we had not included that in our House bill, or in our House version. We had sent it back. I want to take my last chance to remind everybody, if you haven't heard anything else about transportation, you might remember there's a pretty significant financial issue with T-fund monies and T-fund monies going forward. So that was not in our House version. The Senate had pushed very hard for it. There's 2 parts of it that we ultimately agreed. Number one, when the Senate's version of the original transportation bill had brought $1.1 million over in pilot funds and used 700,000 of those for a volunteer coordination project to increase the number of drivers in the Medicaid or the medical transport area, there was still $400,000 unspent. The JFO estimates that this impact of these reduced fees is about $308,000. And so we felt that there was money there that was not coming directly out of the T-fund piece. And we also negotiated that this would be implemented with July 1st, 2026. So this would be included in next year's budget process and building there. Another area of concern are sections in 18 and 19. There was language that was added around education to non-driver identification cards, information and privilege cards, and we inserted and agreed the language. It is the intent of the General Assembly that the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles, to the extent permitted by federal law, ensures, and that's the portion that was added, to the extent permitted by federal law, ensures that any individual is unable to or does not wish to comply with the requirements of the Real ID Act, et cetera, will be informed of their other options to obtain a operator's privilege card and a non-driver identification card. So there was a slight language change there as permitted by federal law. On section 19, right below that, one of the things I really want to point out is the Senate went along with the House's version that said, because of all of the area around driver identification and real IDs, that we require an update from the Department of Motor Vehicle within 30 days, and we require another one before we return back in session next year so we can see what that impact has been. And that, reminding of the section of implementation dates, that whole area is effective upon passage. There were, of course, what you can't see in the bill is all the sections that were left out or taken out. There was an entire section around tinting, tinted windows. There were 3 or 4 sections related to that. And then in section 40, we had proposed to change a study to a report revolving around the appraised value of vehicles and around inspections. And I would like to remind sort of the second piece of big pieces to remember is Madam Speaker, your Committee on House of Transportation is committed to, and as promised among many members here, that we will be taking up the entire area of inspections related to its goals, its focus, and its review, and it's also its ability to adapt in the technological changes that are out there to vehicles. So I'm recommitted to that, and we in the Senate went along with Section 40 to change the study group to a report, and we will continue to work with that report in January when we come back. It's also the chance to remind that we will be working on inspections, but we also, the DMV rollout for all of your constituents, the next phase of rollout for the Modernization Act is in November. Expect all driver's license renewals, et cetera, will all be handled online. There will be some impact to your constituents, but that will continues to be on time and on budget. So that will impact all of our constituents come November. There was a discussion and an effort by the Senate to remove sections 41, 42, 43 revolving around bicycle language. They've been kept, but there was a change on implementation dates, on effective dates. So there will be an education piece done and the implementation on the ability for bicycles to cross in the crosswalk and related to bicycle signals. That will be put off until July 1st, 2026. We also did the similar type of thing in relation to illegal trails in sections 44 and 45. We didn't change any language. We accepted and agreed to, or the Senate accepted and agreed to our language. We will have in section 44 the legislative intent regarding legal trails to help clarify some of that piece. That will be effective on July 1st. And the Section 45, which is related to the maintenance of trails, that effective date will be pushed off till April 1st of 2026. So as I really wrap to the end, Section 46 is sort of a great place to look for effective dates. There's a description there. All of the driver ID in relationship to driver IDs, real IDs, will be effective upon passage. And the issues related to SSI and SSDI, that will be pushed off until the next budget cycle. The maintenance of trails will be next April of 26. Bicycles will also go to July of 26, and all other sections will be July of 2025. Madam Speaker, the conferees, the Committee of Conference asks that the body supports the report. Thank you very much.
The question is, shall the House adopt the report of the Committee of Conference on its part? Are you ready for the question? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to rise and thank the Conference Committee and the Transportation Committee for, in particular, their work on a couple of sections in this bill. One that wasn't under contention in Conference Committee, but I failed to rise in thanks when presented on the floor the first time, and that's for youth who are exiting state custody and the provisions that have been made in this bill for those youth and helping to remove barriers. They often have many barriers as they leave state custody and oftentimes an uncertain future. And so it's helpful when we can remove barriers for them. And so I am thankful for that. The second thing that I am thankful for is the provision that was under discussion in Conference Committee, and that is for individuals who receive SSI or SSDI. Live on very, very limited incomes, and anything we can do to assist them in making access to driver's licenses and other documentation through the Department of Motor Vehicles to be more affordable is appreciated. So I just want to extend our appreciation.
The question is, shall the House adopt the report of the Committee of Conference on its part? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have adopted the report of the Committee of Conference. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to suspend rules to message our action on Senate Bill 123 to the Senate forthwith?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion to suspend rules in order to message our actions on S123 to the Senate forthwith.
The member from Poultney moves that we suspend our rules to message our action on Senate Bill 123 to the Senate forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have suspended rules to message our action on Senate Bill 123 to the Senate forthwith. Members, at this time, we are going to recess and see what bills we get back from the Senate, or if we have any committee of conference reports coming back, so please keep an eye on your email. With that, the House will stand in recess until the fall of the gavel at 1 p.m.